Good morning, DLCDD class. I just want to let you know that I am done with the grading of all the submissions of the CDM for the assessments portion. So you should have feedback available in the Grade Center. There is some feedback in the rubric itself, and then of course I reattach the CDM with the new version that you should work from, and that's going to have a lot of feedback in it as well. So as a reminder, please make sure to address all the feedback that I leave in the CDM. So reply to it with whatever answers the questions that I'm asking in there. So that's part of the whole process. And this happens in a real development as well, that your instructional designer will leave comments in the CDM. There's an expectation then that you'll address them. And I do want to be clear that anything I say or question doesn't make it gospel. So I'm not the authority on designing online courses. I'm just experienced, and I'm trying to offer ideas out there. And so you can disagree with me. That's perfectly fine. That's your academic freedom there. I just want to point that out real quick because I'm also your contract enforcer, and so I need to defend that academic freedom. But I do want to just make that clear that I'm offering suggestions and questions to hopefully help you out in building the best course possible. If you have questions about the feedback that I left or the questions I'm asking on the CDM, please, of course, reach out to me. Either stop in office hours, shoot me an email, drop me a phone call, whatever method of communication you want to use, I'm cool with. As far as moving forward now, we do have two modules this week, accessibility and learning activities. I do want to talk about the quiz in the accessibility module. I don't want you to stress about right and wrong answers on this. What I'm really looking for is your rationale and what you're looking at. The only time I really take points off on this quiz is if you're just way off in left field, that you're way off based on what you should be looking at. But again, I'm not looking necessarily for right and wrong as much as your explanation to say, here's what I was looking for and here's what I noticed. And if you missed something, I'm going to give that to you in the feedback and say, oh, did you look at this? But really kind of the main point of this is kind of to explore the accessibility and start to make yourself familiar with what you should be paying attention to, because we're not going to say in this 6-week course in a module that's covered in a single week with another module that you're going to become an expert on accessibility. That's not the goal here. The goal is really just to get you thinking about what types of things should I be paying attention to and how can we come up with solutions to some of the problems that might arise if there's accessibility issues. So that's kind of the big picture goal here. So don't get stressed out too much about having to become an expert on accessibility. That's not the goal. So then lastly is going to be the learning activities, so module 6. End result here is that we should end up with learning activities for our module. So that's going to happen in the middle column of your CDM, the top half. So there's 2 chunks to that middle column. There's the learning activities and the practice exercises. And so we're tackling the learning activities this week, practice exercises next week. And so the learning activities you want to think about as the non-point valued stuff where students are receiving the information. They're hopefully engaging in some way, whether they're watching videos or engaging in other ways, reading, doing guided reading, whatever the case might be. So that's what's going on with the learning activities. And you're going to want to think through how you're going to word this to be as engaging as possible, because we don't want to just simply say, read this chapter. You want to think about, all right, if I was in a classroom, what would go along with this reading? How would I supplement this? What would I be talking about? Would I be adding a lecture involved with this reading? And so how do I integrate that online? So try to think along those lines about what you'd be doing in a classroom and how we can either replicate that online or replicate the experience online. And that's the bigger piece, that developing online courses shouldn't be about just taking what you do in the classroom and slapping it online. It's really to say, hey, here's this experience that I want students to be going through. Can I do that a different way online? Is there a different method I can use? So that's kind of big picture. I know it's very broad because we all have very different things we do in our disciplines. But that's kind of the purpose then of our discussion. So we can start talking about how we're going to write these directions to our students to engage them, what should be included, and we're going to have a couple discussions this week about that. So I guess I didn't already say lastly, but really lastly, just to point out, modules 5 and 6 are not necessarily linear in the sense that you have to complete module 5 before module 6. And so if you want to get rolling on the discussions for module 6 before you tackle module 5, it's fine. Don't worry too much about it. We'll get more into accessibility in kind of the responses and the discussions and things like that. So anyhow, I'm hitting my 5-minute mark, and I don't like to make videos longer than 5 minutes, so peace out.